Hi, it's Dwyer. DwyerBoxingNews.com, GamblersAdvisory.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. There's a big-time fight coming up at junior middleweight between a fighter who's rapidly becoming regarded as one of the best young fighters in the sport. And he's Jonathan Gonzalez. You may recall his first 13 fights all ended by KO. He's currently 15-0. He's unbeaten. Hits very hard. Devastating lead left hand to the body. And he's fighting Serhiy Dzinziruk, who's coming off the worst night of his career, a night that saw him knocked down multiple times and ultimately stopped by Sergio Martinez. This is a battle of young versus old. Gonzalez looks like he has a bright future. All I can say is this. I'm aware of all of those facts, but you know what I believe? Styles make fights. And whatever the hype is on a fight, I believe that we should go boldly wherever the film takes us. Put me in the camp that believes that the older fighter, Serhiy Dzinziruk, bounces back from the worst night of his career and wins this one. I like Serhiy Dzinziruk to win the fight, straddled against Gonzalez by KO. Right? Gonzalez, heavy-handed, always has a puncher's chance in fights. But I expect him to be systematically and methodically taken apart by a far superior technician, in my opinion. I like Dzinziruk big here. Let's talk about why. You know, Sergio Martinez, who beat Dzinziruk, literally retooled his game for that fight. It's vintage Martinez. Understand what Martinez did, which is out of the ordinary for him, especially when compared to his performance against Matthew Macklin in the early rounds of the Macklin fight, is Martinez came out and decided to be jab heavy. If you look at the CompuBox numbers in his 8 rounds against Serhiy Dzinziruk, Martinez a southpaw, and that's important since Gonzalez is orthodox, right? The current opponent's orthodox. Martinez a southpaw. In 8 rounds, according to CompuBox, threw 384 jabs. That's staggering, right? And understand that he landed against an excellent defensive fighter in Dzinziruk. He landed 38% of them. For those doing the math, that's a stunning 147 jabs landed in 8 rounds, an average of more than 18 a round. That's the secret to that fight, right? It's Martinez's jabs, and it's the timing of Martinez's jabs. One of the underappreciated things that Martinez does is he figures out the rhythm in fights. You'll see him rocking in fights. And he literally is countering Dzinziruk's excellent jab with his own jab. And he's doubling and tripling the jabs. I don't believe that young Jonathan Gonzalez has those skills. Simply put, I'm going to throw out the Sergio Martinez fight. And understand Dzinziruk was unbeaten before that fight. I'm going to throw out the Sergio Martinez fight because Martinez is an elite pound-for-pound fighter who was pulling off things in that match that I do not see Jonathan Gonzalez doing on his best day. In fact, let me go further. Martinez is one of these guys who fights you on several levels, right? He can fight low. He's outside. He knows where your punch ends, right? He's coming at different angles. It's like trying to fight me where I'm over here, then I'm over here, then I pop up, I'm firing jabs, then I'm back over here, I'm over here. That's not Gonzalez. Gonzalez, as I see it, doesn't really bend at the waist. Gonzalez uses his feet for defense. In other words, he's up close, you start throwing punches, he backs away. Then he comes up close, you start throwing punches, he backs away. In other words, he's not going to come back with the quick counters of someone like a Sergio Martinez, who is up close, you start throwing punches, he pivots, he's still close to you, he comes back with a counter, right? So what I think is going to happen is I believe that the younger Gonzalez is going to fall right into the defensive trap that Serhiy Dzinziruk sets. Dzinziruk fights out of a southpaw stance, but I believe he's really a righty looking at the films. In other words, his dominant hand is actually that right hand that he's battering you with, just like Marvin Hagler, right? You're getting hit with his heavy hand up front. Dzinziruk has his hands up. Very hard to hit him, right, if you're right in front of him. I'm expecting Dzinziruk, who doesn't hit as hard as Gonzalez, to actually walk down Gonzalez in this fight, right? Let me point out, too, that as Gonzalez has lifted the level of his opponents after that 13 knockout string to start his career, it's troubling to me that Richard Gutierrez, who had lost a couple of fights before fighting Gonzalez, was able to go the distance against Gonzalez, right? In fact, Gonzalez's last 2 fights have gone the distance. And he fought a guy, Billy Lyell. Now, I know he's tough, but I thought it was interesting because Gonzalez started strong in that fight. Gonzalez always starts strong, as you would imagine a guy with a 13 knockout string to do. He always starts strong. But then I thought he faded a bit in that fight. And Lyell fought Gonzalez, coming off of a loss. That fight also went the distance. Now, I know some are going to say that Lyell also went the distance with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and is a rough and tumble guy. But let's get real. Gonzalez really is more of a puncher than a boxer. His MO is to take you out. If he doesn't take you out, then the fight's a competitive fight. And all I'm saying is Lyell has 10 losses now. He came into that fight with a lot of losses, right? What this tells me is that Gonzalez blows away inferior competition. But now that he's on the world-class stage, fighting world-class opponents, he's going to have to rely more on his boxing skills. And in my opinion, his boxing skills don't come close to those of Serhiy Dzinziruk's, right? Let me just say, too, that Dzinziruk is always in great shape. You look at him, hardly any body fat. You look at Gonzalez, Gonzalez is in puncher shape. What that means is, he's there to take you out. But like a lot of punchers, for them the sport is hitting you, watching you fall, watching the ref count to 10. I don't think they view the sport the way a Bernard Hopkins views the sport, right? They don't view the sport as a marathon. They view it as a 400 meters, right? Not a 26 miler. So when you look at Gonzalez, he still has a lot of baby fat. When you watch him in fights, like the Lyell fight, he looks winded to me in the 5th round of that fight, right? In other words, I really wonder whether he matches Dzinziruk in conditioning, right? I'm not saying Gonzalez is totally out of shape. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is he's at a disadvantage in terms of conditioning, especially against a guy with a sledgehammer jab who's going to be pumping that jab in his face from start to finish. Let me also say this too. If you look at the Chad Greenleaf fight, and understand, this fight's on YouTube. Greenleaf went into that fight with a below 500 record. Greenleaf physically looks smaller than Jonathan Gonzalez. If you look at the Chad Greenleaf fight, you're going to see that Gonzalez actually gets hit with a bevy of bobby punches in that fight. Now, while he got the stoppage in the fight, and it's an early stoppage, while he got the stoppage in the fight, I question whether Gonzalez could maintain the pace of that match for 10 or 12 rounds, right? In that fight, I thought he was tiring in the first round of that fight, right? I doubt that Gonzalez can match Sergio Martinez's volume, and Martinez needed that volume when he fought Dzinziruk, right? So I actually believe that Serhiy Dzinziruk beats unbeaten Jonathan Gonzalez. I would straddle that play with Gonzalez by knockout. In boxing, anytime you have a knockout artist, right, who has a punch, by definition, that fighter has a puncher's chance. I expect Dzinziruk to win this fight. I am going to straddle the play with Gonzalez by KO. What I don't see is Jonathan Gonzalez winning this fight by decision, as he has his last two matchups. Serhiy Dzinziruk is an elite fighter. In my opinion, he's by far the toughest opponent that Gonzalez has ever faced. And don't overvalue too much his loss to Sergio Martinez, because Martinez is one of the very best in the sport, right? There is a possibility that Dzinziruk can't beat Martinez, but can beat a lot of other people. And I believe one of those people is Jonathan Gonzalez. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at DwyerBoxingNews.com and GamblersAdvisory.com. Thanks for watching.